Chosen one, listen carefully. You gave them the loyalty your own blood never had to ask for. You defended them in rooms where your family wasn't even mentioned. You chose their comfort, their version of events, their feelings, over people who share your last name, your history, your childhood. And what did they hand you back? Betrayal, dressed up as friendship until the mask finally slipped in front of everyone. Chosen family, look closely at what just woke up inside you. Not sadness, not another round of tears. Something colder, something that doesn't forgive on command anymore. Something that watched every lie land and quietly decided, never again. They called themselves your people. Not blood, but closer, they said. Closer than blood even. And you believed it hard enough to put them ahead of your own family more than once. Ahead of the people who never asked you to prove your loyalty, because it was never in question. You picked the ones who smiled to your face and carved you up the second you left the room. They thought loyalty like yours was too soft to ever turn. They thought you'd stay grateful no matter what they did with your trust. They were wrong, because right now, in this exact moment, something in you has stopped asking for an explanation and started building a reckoning of its own. Before we go further, hit like and subscribe. Not for me, for you, so this message finds you again on the day you need it most. Let's talk about what actually happened, because it wasn't small, and it wasn't only about them. For years, you were the one who chose them first. When your family called, and they called at the same time, you answered them. When your family needed you at the table, and they needed a favor, you found a way to do both, even if it meant showing up late to your own people. You told yourself it wasn't a betrayal of your family, it was just balance. Just loyalty in two directions. But somewhere along the way the scale tipped, and you didn't notice because you weren't counting. You were too busy being the reliable one, the loyal one, the one who never made anyone choose. And the whole time, while you were busy proving yourself to people who never once had to prove anything to you, they were building a version of you behind your back that had nothing to do with who you actually were. That's the part that stings the most. Not that they lied. People lie. It's that they lied using the exact loyalty you gave them as the material. Every secret you trusted them with became leverage. Every time you defended them to your own family became proof, later, that you'd pick a stranger over your blood. They didn't just betray you, they used your love as the weapon to do it with. And for a long time you didn't see it. Because betrayal from people you chose over your own family doesn't look like betrayal at first. It looks like a misunderstanding. It looks like a bad week. It looks like something you can smooth over if you just explain yourself one more time. So you kept explaining, and they kept taking notes. Somewhere in that pattern, something in you started shifting without asking permission. Not anger, not yet. Awareness. A slow, cold clarity that started separating what people said from what people did. And that shift, chosen family, that's where this story actually begins. If you're feeling this already, drop a 77 in the comments so I know you're locked in for what's coming. Because what wakes up in a person who gave everything and got betrayed for it, that's not a small thing. That's the part of this video that changes how you see the last few years of your life. Let's begin. Number 1. The moment you handed them what your family never had to earn. You didn't hand them your trust because they deserved it more than your family. You handed it to them because they knew exactly how to make you feel like you had to earn theirs. That's the part nobody talks about in stories like this. Your family's love came without conditions attached, so it never felt urgent. It was just there, steady, boring almost, the way air is boring until someone takes it away. But them, they made you work for every ounce of approval. A compliment from them felt like a trophy. A cold shoulder from them felt like a crisis you had to fix immediately. And people like that, the ones who ration their warmth on purpose, they know exactly what they're doing. They're not being complicated, they're training you. Think about how many times you chose their opinion over your own family's warning. Think about how many times someone in your family said something didn't sit right about them, and you defended them anyway, because by then, their approval had become the thing you were chasing, not just enjoying. That's not weakness on your part. That's what happens when someone studies your need to be needed and builds a whole relationship on top of it. Your family never had to manipulate you into loyalty. They already had it, so they never bothered performing for it. Them, on the other hand, performed constantly, and you mistook the performance for depth. Imagine two houses. One is built on solid ground, boring, sturdy, no drama, standing exactly where it's always stood. The other is built on a stage, dressed up with lights and music, moving every time the crowd claps louder for something else. You spent years choosing the stage over the foundation because the stage was louder. It's not that you didn't love your family enough. It's that you'd never been taught what real, unconditional loyalty actually feels like from the inside. So when someone handed you a performance of closeness, you mistook it for the real thing. And here's what none of them expected: that the same attention to detail that made you so easy to manipulate is the exact same trait that eventually made you impossible to fool twice. You started noticing the gaps between what they said in front of you and what got back to you secondhand. You started noticing how their stories shifted depending on who was listening. You started noticing that the people who claimed to be closer than family never once acted like family when it actually mattered, in the moments with no audience, no performance, nothing to gain. They built their whole hold on you out of your own loyalty, and loyalty like yours doesn't disappear when it's betrayed. It transforms, it gets sharper, it gets quieter, and it starts asking a question your family never had to answer because they never gave you a reason to ask it. Who actually earned this? Chosen family, that question is where everything starts to unravel for them, and it's only chapter 1. Number 2, the warning signs you saw and chose to explain away. You weren't blind to what they were doing, you were just committed to a version of them that had already stopped existing. This is the truth that's hardest to sit with, so let's say it plainly instead of dancing around it. You noticed things. You noticed the way they talked about other people who used to be close to them, and you told yourself that could never happen to you. You noticed the way they got strange when you had good news, congratulating you a half second too late, with a smile that didn't reach anywhere near their eyes. You noticed the way certain stories about you started circulating that didn't quite match what actually happened, and each time you gave them the benefit of the doubt, because giving people the benefit of the doubt is who you are. That instinct isn't a flaw, it's actually proof of your character. But it became a weapon in the wrong hands, because the more grace you extended, the safer they felt, testing how far they could push. Every time you excused a small betrayal, you were unknowingly teaching them that a bigger one would be survivable too, and they learned that lesson well. Your family, meanwhile, kept raising small flags you brushed past. A comment here, a hesitation there. Not because your family was jealous, not because they wanted to control who you spent time with, but because people who've known you your entire life can spot a performance faster than people who only met the performance version of you. Your family saw the seams, you saw the costume, and thought it was skin. Imagine standing in a house during a storm, watching water slowly seep in under the door, and instead of dealing with the leak, you keep mopping the floor and calling it clean. That was you for longer than you'd like to admit. Not out of stupidity, out of hope. You wanted them to be who they claimed to be so badly that you did their work of pretending for them. But here's what's happening now, and this is the part that should sit heavy in your chest in a good way. Every warning sign you explained away didn't disappear. It got filed. Somewhere in you, A record was being kept, even while your mouth kept making excuses on their behalf. And now that the truth has finally surfaced in full, that record isn't confusion anymore. It's evidence. Every strange comment, every too late reaction, every story that didn't add up. It's all lining up into a pattern so obvious now that you can't believe you spent years calling it a misunderstanding. That's not naivety, chosen family. That's what loyalty looks like before it's been tested past its limit. And theirs just tested it past the limit, which means every excuse you ever made for them just expired at once. Number 3. The exact night something in you went completely silent. There's always a specific moment, not a slow fade, a single hinge point where the loyal version of you closes a door and doesn't reopen it. You remember it, don't you? Maybe it was a phone call. Maybe it was a message that wasn't meant for your eyes but reached them anyway. Maybe it was hearing your own words repeated back to you in a version twisted just enough to make you look like the problem. Whatever it was, it landed different than every warning sign before it. This time, there was no explaining it away. This time, the evidence had a name attached to it, and the name was theirs. And in that moment, something in you didn't scream. It didn't cry, at least not right away. It went quiet. Not the quiet of shock, the quiet of a decision being made somewhere below conscious thought. Your body knew before your mind caught up. This is the part of the story people usually rush past, but it deserves the full weight it's owed, because that silence is the birthplace of everything that's coming for them. Think about what silence like that actually means. It's not surrender. Surrender is loud, it begs, it argues, it wants the other person to take it back. What you felt was the opposite. It was withdrawal of investment. It was your loyalty pulling itself out of them, the way blood pulls back from a wound to protect the rest of the body. And once that withdrawal happens, chosen family, it doesn't reverse just because someone apologizes later. The trust that gets pulled out that fast doesn't grow back the same way it was planted the first time. Imagine a plant that's been watered faithfully for years, and one day the water gets replaced with something toxic without you even seeing it happen. The plant doesn't die instantly. It just stops growing toward that source. It redirects, roots turning away, searching for something honest instead. That's what happened inside you. You didn't explode, you redirected. And here's the part they never saw coming, because they were too busy congratulating themselves on getting away with it. Your silence after that moment wasn't the end of the story for them. It was the beginning of a different one, a version of you that stopped performing loyalty out loud and started operating from clarity instead. You went from someone who defended them by instinct to someone who watched them by instinct. And people who are used to being defended rarely notice right away when they've switched to being watched instead. That night mattered more than they will ever understand, because that's the exact night the devil in the title of this video was born. Not evil, awake. Number 4, the family you almost stopped trusting, and the mistake you didn't make. Here's something worth saying clearly before we go any further, because this story could easily be twisted into the wrong lesson if we're not careful. This isn't about deciding family is always right and outsiders are always wrong. That's not the truth, and pretending otherwise would be its own kind of lie. The truth is simpler and harder at the same time. Your family earned your trust the long way, through decades of consistency, and them, the ones who betrayed you, never actually earned it at all. You extended it in advance, hoping it would be met with the same weight you were giving it. There was a point, admit it, where the tension between the two got so loud in your head that you almost let it poison the relationship that never deserved to be questioned in the first place. You almost let their manipulation convince you that your family was the one being unfair, the one being dramatic, the one who couldn't understand your new life. That's the oldest trick in the book, and it nearly worked. isolating you from the people with a real track record made you easier to control by the people with none. But something in you held the line, even when it was hard, even when their version of events made your family sound cold or controlling for simply asking honest questions. You kept showing up at your family's table, even while you defended the people slowly working to replace them in your life. That instinct to keep one foot planted in solid ground, even while you were being pulled toward the stage, that instinct just saved you. Imagine almost jumping from a boat that felt exciting and new onto a dock that was rotted underneath, and something made you hesitate just long enough to notice the wood was already cracking. That hesitation is the reason you're not in the water right now. Your family didn't need to win an argument to be right. They just needed you to eventually see for yourself, and now you have. This chapter isn't about revenge against your family for doubting them once. It's about recognizing that the people who never asked you to prove anything were the ones worth trusting the whole time, and the people who demanded constant proof were the ones who never had any intention of giving it back. That clarity alone is worth more than anything they ever pretended to offer you. Number 5. What the devil inside you actually is, and why it isn't what they think. Let's be precise about this, because the word carries weight, and it deserves an honest definition instead of a dramatic one. What woke up in you isn't cruelty. It isn't a desire to destroy anyone's life. It's not chaos wearing your face. What woke up in you is refusal. Refusal to keep explaining yourself to people who never intended to listen. Refusal to keep translating your pain into a language soft enough for them to feel comfortable hearing it. Refusal to keep shrinking your own reality just so their version of the story could survive. For most of your life you led with softness, because softness was who you actually are. That never changes, not really. But softness without boundaries isn't kindness, it's an open door. And for years, they walked through that door and rearranged the furniture like they owned the place. What's different now isn't your heart, it's the lock on the door. And a lock isn't evil. A lock is just a house, finally protecting what's inside it. Think of it like a forest after a wildfire moves through. From a distance, it looks like devastation, blackened ground, nothing standing. But underneath, something else is happening. The seeds that could never crack open under normal conditions, the ones sealed too tight for gentleness to reach, those seeds only open under heat. What looks like ruin from the outside is actually the only condition rare enough to trigger the next stage of growth. That's what betrayal like this does to a person like you. It doesn't destroy the ground. It cracks open what softness alone could never release. They're going to call this change dramatic. They're going to tell people you got cold, that you changed, that you became someone unrecognizable. Let them say it. What they're really describing is the absence of an easy target. The devil they think woke up in you isn't malice. It's discernment with teeth. It's loyalty that finally learned the difference between people who deserve it and people who simply demand it. It's love that stopped being available on credit. And here's what makes this version of you so much more dangerous to them than the old one ever was. The old you could be manipulated because the old you needed to be understood by everyone, including people who never earned the effort. This version of you doesn't need their understanding anymore. It doesn't need their apology to feel resolved. It simply moves forward, clear-eyed, unwilling to hand out trust like it's still an unlimited resource. That's not the devil they're afraid of. That's the version of you they should have respected from the very beginning. Number 6. The silence that's making them more nervous than any confrontation ever could. Here's what they didn't expect. They expected tears, arguments, a scene, something they could point to later and call proof that you were unstable, dramatic, difficult to deal with. That's the story they'd already prepared in advance. The one where you're the villain, and they're the ones who simply had to distance themselves from your chaos. But you didn't give them the scene, you gave them nothing, and nothing is the one script they never rehearsed a response for. Silence like yours right now isn't empty, it's loaded. It's the kind that makes people replay their own actions on a loop at 3 in the morning, wondering what you know, wondering what you're planning, wondering why you haven't reacted the way they predicted. People who've done wrong crave a reaction, because a reaction gives them something to respond to, something to spin, something to use. Your calm takes that entire strategy away from them. There's nothing to argue with. There's nothing to defend against. There's just you, unreadable, moving on with your life, as though the door already closed behind you a long time ago. Watch how differently people behave around someone who used to explain everything and suddenly explains nothing. The over-friendliness creeps in first. Too many check-ins, too many casual mentions of old memories, fishing to see if you'll bite. Then comes the nervous energy, the slightly too long pauses before they speak, the careful way they choose their words now, like they're walking across ice they didn't know was this thin. That shift in their behavior isn't guilt turning into growth. It's guilt turning into fear of consequences they can't predict, because for the first time, they genuinely don't know what you're capable of doing with what you know. Imagine holding a hand of cards close to your chest at a table full of people who used to be able to read your face like an open book. They keep glancing over, trying to catch a flicker of tell, a hint, anything. But you've stopped playing the version of the game where you show your hand out of habit. You just sit there, calm, patient, letting them sweat over a hand they can't see. That, chosen family, is not coldness. That's control, returning to where it always should have lived, with you. The devil they think they're seeing is simply the version of you that finally understood silence is not weakness, it's leverage, and you're the only one holding it now. Number 7, how they built an entire story out of your loyalty, and what happens when the story collapses. For a long time, their comfort depended on a specific narrative, one where they were the good ones, and you were simply lucky to be included. That story only worked as long as you kept playing your assigned role, the loyal one, the forgiving one, the one who never asked too many questions. Every time you defended them, every time you smoothed things over, every time you gave them the benefit of the doubt in front of other people, you were unknowingly helping them write a script where their behavior never had to be questioned. But stories like that only survive as long as the main character keeps performing the same lines. The moment you stopped, the whole structure had nowhere to stand. Think about how many times they needed you specifically, not someone else, you, to vouch for them, to explain their side, to make excuses on their behalf to people who were starting to see through it. That wasn't affection. That was dependency dressed up as closeness. They needed your credibility because theirs had already worn thin with everyone who watched closely enough. And now that you've stopped supplying it, watch what happens to the story. It doesn't hold together on its own. The people who used to nod along when you defended them are starting to ask different questions now that you're not there filling in the gaps. Without your loyalty acting as the glue, all the inconsistencies they were counting on you to smooth over are standing out in plain sight for the first time. Imagine a building that was never actually structurally sound, held together instead by a single support beam nobody could see because it was buried deep inside the walls. Remove that one beam, and the whole structure doesn't collapse instantly, but it starts to lean, crack, shift in ways that become impossible to ignore. You were that beam. You didn't know it. They knew it completely, and that's exactly why they fought so hard to keep you convinced everything was fine. Now that beam is gone, and there is nothing left holding their version of events together except their own words, which, without your backup, are starting to sound exactly like what they always were. convenient, self-serving, empty. That collapse isn't something you have to cause on purpose. It's simply what happens to a lie the moment its favorite witness stops testifying on its behalf. Number 8. The proof you kept without even realizing you were keeping it. Here's something they never accounted for. You're not someone who forgets. You're someone who forgives quickly, which they mistook for the same thing, but forgiveness and forgetting have never been the same animal. Every dismissive comment, every conveniently timed lie, every moment where their story didn't match what actually happened, some part of you was quietly filing it away, not out of paranoia, but out of the same instinct that made you loyal in the first place, the instinct to pay close attention to the people you love. You weren't building a case against them on purpose. You were simply living honestly, remembering things the way they actually happened, instead of the way it would have been easier to remember them. And now that the full picture has come into focus, all those small, forgiven moments have stopped looking like isolated incidents and started looking like exactly what they were the whole time, a pattern. This is the part that terrifies people who've spent years manipulating someone patient. They assume patience means the memory is short too. They assume that because you never confronted every small thing in the moment, none of it actually landed, none of it actually mattered, none of it actually stayed. But patience and memory are not opposites. Sometimes patience is simply memory choosing to wait for the right moment, instead of reacting to every single one as it happens. Imagine someone slowly filling a jar with water, drop by drop, so slowly that no single drop ever seems significant enough to comment on. They keep dripping, confident the jar will never actually fill, confident you'll never notice the level rising because you never said anything about the drops before. Then one day the jar is simply full, and every single drop they ever added becomes visible at once, all in the same place, all impossible to deny. You are not the same person who let those moments slide without consequence. You are the person who let them slide without immediate confrontation, which is a very different thing. And now that the jar is full, chosen family, you don't need to throw it at anyone. You just need to let people finally see how much it's actually holding. That alone is doing more work than any argument you could have started years ago. Number 9. Why cutting them off felt like dying and turned out to be the opposite. Nobody warns you how much a betrayal like this costs, even after you know the truth, even after every excuse runs out. There's a grief that comes with losing people you chose, a grief that's somehow heavier than losing people who were simply placed in your life by circumstance. You picked them. You defended that choice, sometimes even to your own family. So walking away from them doesn't just mean losing a relationship, it means confronting the version of yourself who trusted the wrong people so completely, and that's a harder loss to sit with than the people themselves. For a while it felt like something in you had actually died along with the relationship. The version of you who believed the best about people without hesitation, the version who gave loyalty freely because it never occurred to her, or him, that it could be used as a weapon, that version went quiet, and the silence felt like mourning because in a lot of ways it was. But here's what nobody tells you about that kind of ending. Something doesn't just die in a moment like that. Something gets replaced. The trust you used to give away freely didn't disappear, it relocated, moved inward, started protecting you instead of performing for other people. The energy you used to spend defending them, explaining them, managing their feelings, that energy didn't vanish either. It's still here, just aimed somewhere new, somewhere that actually deserves it, which for the first time in a long time is you. Imagine a snake shedding a skin that no longer fits. From the outside, it can look like something dying, discarded, left behind in the dirt. But the thing that mattered was never the skin. It was what was underneath it the whole time, something that had already outgrown the old shape and simply needed room to move. What you're feeling isn't the loss of who you were. It's the shedding of the version of you that could only exist as long as you kept trusting people who never deserved the effort. You're not less than you were before this happened. You're finally sized correctly for your own life, without the extra weight of people who were only ever comfortable when you were smaller than you actually are. Number 10. How karma is collecting what apologies were never going to pay. You didn't ask the universe for revenge. You didn't need to. Something about betrayal this deliberate has a way of settling its own accounts eventually, quietly, without needing your permission or your involvement. You've probably already noticed it starting. Small things at first. Opportunities that used to fall into their lap, now slipping past them. People who used to trust their word instinctively, now hesitating, asking more questions than they used to. That's not coincidence. That's consequence, arriving on its own schedule instead of yours. Here's something worth understanding clearly. Karma isn't a punishment you have to design. It's simply what happens naturally when someone spends years building relationships on a foundation of manipulation instead of honesty. Eventually, the people around them start noticing the same patterns you noticed. Eventually, the stories stop lining up for someone else, the way they used to stop lining up for you. You were simply the first one to see it clearly, not the only one who eventually will. Imagine someone who's spent years borrowing trust from everyone around them, never intending to pay any of it back, convinced the well would refill itself forever. Wells like that don't refill on their own. Every withdrawal without a deposit leaves the water level a little lower, and eventually, no matter how confident someone is standing at the edge, they lower the bucket and pull up nothing but dry rope. That's what's beginning to happen now, and it has nothing to do with anything you had to orchestrate. You don't need to tell anyone what happened. You don't need to correct the record loudly or convince anyone of anything. The truth has its own gravity, and eventually it pulls people toward it whether you push or not. All you had to do was stop being the person actively holding their version of the story together, and the natural weight of what actually happened is doing the rest on its own timeline. This isn't about celebrating someone else's downfall out of spite. It's about recognizing that you were never responsible for protecting people from the consequences of their own choices, and the moment you stopped, those consequences finally had room to arrive. Number 11. The version of you they built their entire plan around, and why she or he doesn't exist anymore. Every manipulation has a blueprint, and their blueprint was built entirely around a version of you that needed their approval more than your own peace. That version over-explained herself. That version chased clarity from people who specialized in confusion. That version believed that enough patience, enough grace, enough benefit of the doubt would eventually be met with honesty. They built years of comfortable behavior around the assumption that version of you would always be available to forgive whatever came next. That version is gone. Not suppressed, not hiding, gone. And they haven't fully processed that yet, which is why some of them are still operating like the old playbook will work if they just try the right combination of guilt, nostalgia, and fake vulnerability. Watch how confused they get when the tactics that used to land instantly now bounce off without leaving a mark. They're talking to a memory. You're standing somewhere they can't reach anymore. Imagine a locksmith who spent years perfecting a key for one specific lock, confident that lock would never change. Then one day they show up, key in hand, expecting the same click of release they've grown used to, and nothing happens. The mechanism inside has been replaced entirely. No amount of jiggling the old key is going to open a door that's already been upgraded. That confusion on their face, that's exactly what's happening every time they try an old tactic on the new version of you. This isn't about becoming someone unrecognizable to yourself. It's about becoming unreadable to the specific people who only ever loved the version of you that made their manipulation easy. The parts of you that matter, the warmth, the loyalty to people who deserve it, the capacity to love deeply, none of that disappeared. What disappeared is the vulnerability they used to access it without consequence. And chosen family, that's not a loss. That's the upgrade that was overdue. Number 12. Why they're panicking now that you've stopped explaining yourself. Explaining yourself used to be your love language with them, whether you realized it or not. You gave context, you gave reasons, you gave them every opportunity to understand your side, because deep down, you believed understanding would fix things. That belief kept the relationship alive far longer than it deserved to survive, because as long as you were still explaining, they still had access to you, still had a way back in, still had room to argue their case. Now that access is gone, and it's terrifying them in a way confrontation never could. Confrontation gives people something to fight. Silence gives them nothing to hold on to at all. They've noticed you're not correcting the rumors anymore. They've noticed you're not defending your choices to mutual friends. They've noticed that when your name comes up in conversations meant to provoke a reaction, you simply don't provide one. That absence of reaction is doing more damage to their comfort than any argument ever could, because it tells everyone watching that you've moved past needing to prove anything at all. People who are used to controlling the narrative panic the moment the narrative stops requiring their input to function. Watch them start reaching out with vague, testing messages, phrases like "just checking in" or "thinking about you lately," sent with no real purpose except to see if you'll respond the way you used to. Every non-response is a message of its own, louder than anything you could type back. Imagine a puppeteer who's spent years pulling strings attached to someone who always danced right on cue. Then one day the strings go slack, not cut, just slack, and the puppet simply stands there, upright on its own, no longer moving according to anyone else's hand. That stillness terrifies a puppeteer more than resistance ever would, because resistance at least confirms the strings are still attached. Stillness confirms they never needed the strings in the first place. You don't owe them a performance of forgiveness or a performance of anger. You don't owe them anything at all anymore. And the not owing, chosen family, that's the exact thing keeping them up at night. Number 13, the family who was right, and how you're finally showing them without a single word. There's a specific kind of relief that comes from realizing the people who tried to warn you weren't trying to control you, they were trying to protect you the whole time, and you couldn't fully understand that until you saw it for yourself. You don't owe your family a dramatic apology tour for the years you defended people who didn't deserve it. That's not how real family works. They're not keeping score. But something has shifted in how you show up at that table now, and they've noticed, even if nobody's said it out loud. You're present in a different way now, less distracted by managing outside relationships, less split between two versions of loyalty. Your family gets more of your actual attention, not because you're performing gratitude, but because the space that used to be occupied by managing them is finally free again. Watch how naturally the relationship rebuilds itself once it's no longer competing with something that was never worth the competition. Imagine a garden that's been slowly choked by a vine that looked green and alive on the surface, but was quietly strangling everything underneath it. The moment that vine is finally pulled, the plants that were struggling don't need a grand ceremony to start growing again. They just need the space that was taken from them, and they take it back on their own, quietly, steadily, without needing anyone to announce that the recovery is happening. That's what's happening with your family right now. No speeches required. No confessions necessary. Just presence, consistency, showing up the way you used to before someone else convinced you that closeness had to be earned through performance, instead of simply given because it's real. Your family already knew what real loyalty looked like. You're just remembering how to give it back to the people who never stopped offering it to you first. Number 14. the reckoning that's already begun, whether you lift a finger or not. Everything you've read up to this point isn't a warning about what might happen someday. It's a description of something already in motion. The distance between you and them isn't temporary. It's structural now, built on a clarity that doesn't dissolve just because someone sends a nostalgic message at the right moment. The people who used to believe their version of events without question are starting to ask better questions. The opportunities that used to fall easily into their lap are starting to require more than charm to secure. The comfort they built on the assumption that you'd always be available to smooth things over, that comfort is gone, and nothing they do now can manufacture it back. You didn't have to become cruel to get here. You didn't have to spread a single lie or chase them down for a confrontation. All you had to do was stop protecting people from a truth they created entirely on their own. That's it. That's the whole reckoning. Not revenge in the way movies dramatize it, not some elaborate takedown you have to orchestrate scene by scene. Just the natural, unavoidable outcome of what happens when someone spends years building a life on borrowed trust, and the person they borrowed it from finally closes the account. Imagine a bridge that was never actually inspected properly, holding weight it was never designed to carry, staying standing only because nobody had tested it yet. You were the one holding it up without knowing it, walking back and forth across it every day, absorbing stress it was never built to handle. The moment you stepped off, the bridge didn't need anyone to demolish it. It simply revealed what it always was, the moment the weight was removed. That's what's happening to them right now, chosen family. And it's happening in real time, without your involvement, without your permission, without a single dramatic word from you required. The devil that woke up in you didn't need to burn anything down. It just needed to stop holding everything up. So here's where this one closes. Calm, not loud. What woke up in you after everything you gave them and everything you got back wasn't cruelty, and it was never meant to be. It was clarity, arriving late, but arriving completely. You trusted people who never earned the weight you gave them, and the family who never had to ask for that same trust is still right there, exactly where they've always been, waiting without needing an apology for the years it took you to see clearly. That's not a tragedy, that's a homecoming. You don't need their downfall to feel complete. Their downfall is simply what happens when a lie stops being protected by someone who finally chose the truth instead. You are not the villain in this story, no matter how they try to rewrite it now that they've lost their favorite witness. You are the one who survived being underestimated by people who mistook your patience for permission, and now you're standing on the other side of that betrayal exactly the way you were always meant to, clear-eyed, protected, and finally home. If this hits somewhere real, let it settle. Like this video, subscribe if you're new here, and drop a 77 in the comments if you're walking away from this one lighter than you came in. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, and goodbye.